Good morning. It's 9 o'clock. We're here for our regular scheduled Commissioner Board meeting. We're in the chamber, all three commissioners. We got our administrator and the clerk of the board. And at this time, I'll call the meeting to order and ask everyone to please rise and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, the first thing on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from January 17th and February 23rd. Is there any revisions, corrections, or additions?
No.
Seeing none. Next, we'll move down to the approval of the vouchers.
We have two today. Move for approval of fund expenditures in a total amount of $883,477.14 as presented, and note that it has been reviewed and signed by two representatives of the auditor's office and the county administrator.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Move for approval of salary clearing payroll and emergency management payroll in a total amount of $1,226,192.45 as presented, and note that it has been reviewed and signed by two representatives of the auditor's office.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have consent agenda. There are two items on the consent agenda.
Move for approval of consent agenda items 1 through 2 as presented.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for the approval of the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we're to public comment. Is there anybody in the room for public comment?
George Dockstetter, Self Landing Road. I've got two concerning the road department. They're out there doing the bar ditches again, making it pretty hard for people to pull off the road. And I got notice from the post office yesterday, if I don't fill in the bar ditch, they're not going to deliver. So it seems to me that we're wasting a lot of money. We've got a crew of 4 and 2 road graders and a brush machine going out there putting up bar ditches, and now you can't pull off the road where they've gone in and made them steep. Second item, we're raising roughly $300,000 a month, $250,000 a month on the 0.1% sales tax increase for behavior health. And there's been discussion out in the country, why don't we do that for a limited period of time, raise it again, and just do it for improving our main roads in Franklin County. Do it for like 5 years, put a limit on it so we can get all-weather roads and widening of Glade and Taylor Flats. Yesterday, I was stuck for 2 miles behind a line of equipment, moving, going up past the Esquassel, and I had to wait all the way till I got to Birch Road before I could turn off, because this equipment's so wide and so heavy that I think the community would stand still for an increase if they knew it was specifically going for major road improvements in the county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, I see in your regular business you have queued up for civil service examiner secretary or resolution to make a independent private contractor to oversee civil service. 100% of your civil service employees work for the Franklin County Sheriff's Office. You have no other civil service employees in the county. Your decisions impacts the Franklin County Sheriff's civil service employees. Knowing this is an important topic to the Sheriff's Office and to me, I'm looking at an agreement or a contract which veiled attempts to try to show that it's not a county employee, but yet you put them in a pay grade under the county's pay grade structure and payment structure where you're going to pay out no more than $8,200 a year on the first page. And I'm going to draw your attention to examiner duties to number I, and then to number 3 on the first page. And then on the second page, I'm going to draw your attention to number 5. Clearly, if you look at this contract, there's disputable issues, rather, once this person's hired, if you find somebody to do it. You're going to have a hard time saying it's not a county employee. So my question is, why in the heck wouldn't you just leave it, the civil service examiner, where it's at within the county structure?
Good morning. My name's Leonard Inglima. I'm here with my wife Marlene today. We've lived in Franklin County over 50 years, and I've got a concern in my neighborhood there on Elm Road, specifically at 632 Elm Road. Years ago, they put up some old trailer houses. I don't know if it was under the guise of labor housing. I don't know if it was approved. Anyway, it has really gone to crap. There's no sugarcoating it. The one right next to the road, it's abandoned. There's broken windows, screens, doors. There's more trash outside. It looks like there was 4, I think there's 3 now. I think somebody's living in the one. It just looks terrible. Just down the road from that is another abandoned place. The guy unfortunately passed away. It's not near as bad as that house, but it's abandoned. I see a window open. I don't know what kind of critters. And I want to bring up one other place, and these are just happen to be on my loop. I don't know the address, but between Self Landing and Alder Road, on the west side of Taylor Flat, the old dairy, just below the Esquatzel, that has got to be a fire hazard. I mean, I would just ask you commissioners to just take a drive in the country, because I'd like to see, I don't know if there's ordinances against this kind of thing. And if there isn't, maybe we need to be proactive and look into it, because everywhere 2 center pivots come together, if there's no ordinance, guess what? I can go buy a $1,500 mobile home, stick it there, and make my neighborhood look terrible. I brought this up 4 or 5 years ago, and nothing really got done about it. But it's time something gets done. Like I said, I'd like to be proactive rather than reactive. It just can't go on like this. Nobody wants that in their neighborhood. I'm proud to live in Franklin County. I want to stay that way. So if you could take the time and look into that for me, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to just briefly state that the Civil Service has not had a chance to review whatever the HR department has made about this particular position, and we should have had the right to view it. I would ask you to table it until we do. We need to sign off on the notice, the definition. They're speaking on behalf of Civil Service. We're trying to become independent because the entanglements seem to be problematic. There are many different models where the chief examiner / secretary is supplied by somebody from HR, and there are others that are not. And we have not had the chance to review that. Now, that is taken from my time that I really wanted to address this morning, and that is the meeting of the city of Pasco last night. They overruled a decision by the people of opposing positions, and the sheriff was there. And he said, we had an agreement, and we are appealing to a higher government body to come back to the city and say you overruled the agreement of the people by calling for some procedural joke that someone didn't really mean to vote what they voted. The people agreed, and there was a vote to have one pot shop in the industrial area. Now we have them everywhere. They're drawing up the resolution. They're flying in the face of a survey that was taken that was still a majority vote of 46% to 44% that said no to pot shops. We have prevailed, and yet we have been overridden by an oath to the Constitution, no less, by Mr. Campos, that he's abiding by the Constitution. The Constitution says the majority vote prevails. I don't care if it's a survey. We had more people show up against these shops. They're going to take from the resources we have in the county. They're going to counter everything that we've done with Catholic Charities, because yes, in Catholic Charities, as opposed to the Union Gospel Mission, you can take any drugs into your private taxpayer-funded home and do them. They don't require you to be off drugs. And furthermore, you can deal with your dealer, or you don't even have to go to the pot shop, okay? And this prevails one drug substance abuse to another. It affects the frontal lobe, the judgment part of the brain, to make the right decision. So a bunch of people that propose and use with compromised frontal lobes are now dictating to the people that brought peer-reviewed scientific proof that it affects our youth and our most vulnerable people. Now they're running the show. It also affects the mental health facility that we're putting together, the detox facility that we're putting together, and it is unacceptable. So we're calling on you to gather the bi-county relationship you have and any other city managers that you have, and write a letter that they have abused the call of the majority of the people and have tried to pull some kind of hokey thing with a procedural guideline. They don't even adhere to the Roberts rules, that their vote really was rescinded. And that's why that is so dangerous. Thank you.
Is there anybody on the telephone? No. Anybody else for public comment? Seeing none, we'll move down to regular business. The Civil Service Examiner Secretary, Resolution 2023-086, presented by Sam Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have been told that originally the Civil Service Examiner Secretary position was a standalone position. Then somehow it became part of the HR Generalist 1 position. That is not working out for us, so basically we would like to return it to an independent position. The president of the commission is not a county employee. I met one of the commissioners this week, and he has a partner. They are not county employees. And so the vast majority of the people here are not county employees who are on the Civil Service Commission. Before you have the ASR and the job description, but I want to bring it back next week because we need to change one thing so the document reads that it can be a Franklin County resident or a resident of an adjacent county. We anticipate 32 hours a month and feel it will be an excellent opportunity for people who are looking for part-time work.
Any questions before you leave?
I have a few observations, not so much questions, but let me start with a general piece first. For a number of years, I have requested over and over, that we, the county, make a distinction between notice and coordination. Notice of an action is simply sending somebody an email or giving them information saying, we intend to do this. Coordination, on the other hand, is where you provide them the materials and you seek their input. And sometimes that input is that they concur with the proposal, sometimes they non-concur, and sometimes the information is provided just for that, just for information. But for coordination to happen, it requires the recipient of that information to come back to the provider and provide that feedback. Absent that feedback, it's notice, not coordination. I bring this up because in this package, it says the commissioners, under coordination, it lists Commissioner Didier, Commissioner Mullen, Commissioner Peck. No one has coordinated with me on these details. They've sent me a notice of this intent to bring this up. And as I read through the rest of it, I don't see anybody from the Hearings Examiner Board, and I don't see the sheriff. And they are probably, at least in my opinion, they're the central participants in this discussion and this decision. So I certainly appreciate the fact that you have other reasons to delay this for a week, and I think that may in fact be appropriate. I see that our Chief Civil Deputy is up to speak next, and maybe there's something that she can provide that will give some reason as to why this can't wait. But as I see it right now, it appears that the coordination's not complete. Thank you.
It absolutely needs to wait. I did not realize that we did not coordinate with civil service. This position is 100% theirs, not ours. So it needs to be coordinated with the Civil Service Commission. I mean, we can certainly make the decision to remove it from an HR position. That is within our wheelhouse. But as far as an agreement, pay, et cetera, that should all be controlled by the civil service. And I thought HR was working on behalf of, at their request, and I didn't realize that wasn't happening. But no, the sheriff would not be involved in the coordination with this because he has to remain separate from the civil service.
So I respect the legal perspective on that, certainly. I still view the sheriff's department as a customer, and I would at least invite them to offer an opinion as to how it may or may not impact their operations. I don't think that runs afoul of anything. And that's really all I'm talking about from a coordination standpoint. I'm not suggesting that we give them a veto, and I use the term them respectfully, but yeah, it's coordination requires, yeah.
Careful, because this is an independent position. It can't be swayed by the sheriff's office. They're not supposed to have control over who's the examiner, et cetera, under state law. So we just need to, I mean, yeah,
I understand.
they're welcome to share their opinion. Just need to be careful with that.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I just want to get clarity is, we're just trying to separate this from HR is what this action is. There is nobody, no names right now.
No, we haven't even posted the ad because we're still working on the ad.
All we're trying to do is-
We had tidied it up and we're ready to go, but we're not.
But we need to coordinate with the Civil Service Board.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
And I wanted to thank Commissioner Peck this week. He explained to me what the coordination block of the ASRs means. And being new here, didn't quite understand that, so thanks.
All right. So we'll table that till next week. Moves us down to Commissioner Administrator updates. Mr. Davidson?
Chairman, I attended telephonically the Benton Franklin Law Library meeting with Commissioner Didier. Following that meeting, I met with facilities about obtaining a cost estimate for a false ceiling to be installed in the room that's across from the OPD office, where we have plans on possibly locating that. We shared that with the Benton Franklin Law Library Board. They were pretty enthusiastic about that. Of course, the law library is going to be taking on a whole new look in the sense it's basically going to be a computer. Very, very few books. It's going to be almost all digitized, and so that room will suffice. But there's, from a security standpoint, because there's some exposed wiring and such, we need to put a false ceiling in there and a couple other small improvements. I attended the special commissioner meeting, of course, on Thursday with you gentlemen, and then that evening attended a fire district and fire departments meeting of all the fire districts and fire departments of Franklin County at Station 84 on Court Street, once again to continue to talk about the possibility of an EMS levy. The main takeaways from that meeting were that there's a strong desire to move ahead with the county EMS levy. Two, the Pasco, the city of Pasco is involved for support, which they're a great support with Chief Gear, but the city of Pasco would be excluded from the EMS levy. And the next meeting that we're arranging is in Clotis. Fire District 2, which is Clotis, which is one of the areas of our greatest concern from a countywide EMS standpoint, because there's no basically EMS services in that district. So we're going to be having a meeting next week with them. This isn't a county meeting. This is a fire department meeting. We're just attending to help them facilitate as they go down this path. Yesterday, I attended a meeting about ARPA funds that was organized by Shirley Jones from the Commissioner's Office. She has assembled people from the Public Works Auditor's Office and Prosecutor's Office to help compile a contract template that would be used for the disbursement of the ARPA funds. Surprisingly, that very little came from the federal government and guidance on how to spend the funds. They gave us the money and then not real good, clear direction about how to do it. So we're compiling together a contract template that will hopefully pass muster, and we'll go from there. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Peck?
I was in Olympia again last week on Wednesday and Thursday for the State Association of Counties Legislative Steering Committee. I was chairing the meeting this time. I alternate with my co-chair from the west side. Excuse me. Went through a large number of bills, as we do, but I'll point out that the funnel gets narrower as time goes on. A lot of bills drop off, but there's still a number of bills in play that have real potential to impact our county and, in fact, all counties. Met with representatives of the state committee set up by the legislature to advise the legislature on how to promote aviation and aerospace industries in the state of Washington. Participated in a special meeting, as my fellow commissioners did, on Thursday. On Friday, had a lengthy 2+ hour meeting with the Benton Franklin Council of Governments, in which we were going to update bylaws, policies, and do elections for the key positions at the COG. We managed to get some work done, but I'll be continuing as the chair of the Benton Franklin Council of Governments for the foreseeable future until we get some other activities resolved and get some policies in place. And then there was the WASAC update meeting yesterday, which focused on changes to the OPMA, the Open Public Meetings Act in Washington. Not anything we hadn't heard before, but there have been some recent changes. Thank you.
Commissioner Mullen?
So we had the Board of Health meeting last week, and updates on the norovirus, and also working with new grants for healthy aging and promoting healthy aging in our community. And also had the special meeting on Thursday with the fellow commissioners. That's pretty much it. Pretty light week.
My last week consisted of the law library, and I see Jen is in the meeting room, so maybe she can open up the top room. We could still possibly use that for storage of books, the hardcover, right? Mm-hmm. Correct? Yeah, that's what we were thinking, and we couldn't get in there because it was locked up, and it needs to be accessible to the people. And then we had the Board of Health meeting, our special meeting, had the Columbia Basin Sustainable Water Committee Board meeting and the Columbia Basin Sustainable Water Stakeholder meeting, the MS at Fire Station 84 on Court Street. And then I asked Mr. Davidson if he would, and I grabbed him when we went for a drive, took him out to the blocks, showed him the approaches that are being put on to the roadways that are not all-weather roadways. And some of them are putting in concrete, some are putting in blacktop, and if they ever become all-weather roadways, these approaches are going to have to be tore up. Showed him approaches that are just gravel out to the roadways on these roadways, and there's no rock going out on the road. The blacktop's not being tore down. Then I took him around and showed him the borrow pits that are being brought back up on the roadway and put back down. And we're noticing that, as good operators as we got, there's intolerances on the borrow pit. And when you bring that material up on the road and put it back, you create a soft shoulder. And that's when we're having the breaking away of the blacktop, and we're having the weed and the vegetation come up and go back into very dangerous big balls of gravel, dirt, and weeds, which could be detrimental for a vehicle with a flat tire trying to get off the roadway. And this is a concern that I've been bringing up since I've been a commissioner, and would like to see a change. And I'm going to continue to take the administrator out and drive him on the roadways, Mr. Davidson and the new one, and continue to show him what we're doing out there. And we should be looking and broadening our roadways. If the landowner chooses to do it, I think we ought to let him. And that is to create an avenue for the equipment that is going up the road to get off the road to let vehicles go by. We need some turnout areas on Glade Road especially, and on Taylor Flats, so the farm equipment can get off the side of the road and cars can go by them safely, because we are having near misses out there at this time of the year and during harvest, and we need to remedy that for the safety of our community. With that,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
apologies. I forgot I had a second page.
Oh,
So-
absolutely.
In the words of Paul Harvey, page 2. Funds from the sale of the Wilson House of approximately $398,000 has now been received and credited to the Building Expansion Fund. And the second item on page 2 is one application was received for the HAPO Advisory Board. We did extensive advertisement for that and even some personal recruiting. It does appear that we do have a qualified applicant. We will be preparing an ASR and a resolution for next Tuesday so that if the commissioners want to approve that person after having an executive session to review that applicant, you can do so.
All right, thank you.
Sorry.
All right, with that, we'll move down to the next elected department and head business, and I see the Sheriff Corrections Body Scan PowerPoint.
Commissioners, as a segue to the body scanner, last week there was conversation about having to move $20,000 over to pay for wraps of motor vehicles. Some points of interest, being you guys are all dollar guys. When we purchased the cars out of rotation, we saved approximately $7,500 a car by purchasing them how we did. So 7,500 by 12, I'll let you do the math. And part of the problem was we had to go over to get those vehicles wrapped as they started coming in, so you could take the 20,000 away from this, whatever the cost was, 80-some thousand.
Do you mind if I
So-
ask, how did that happen? It's first I've heard that we saved $7,500 per vehicle. I mean, that's great.
Sure. So what happened, there was a large sheriff's office on the west side that ordered 2023 Tahoes at 2022 prices. And they ordered them in and they came in and then they had to cancel their contract. So they went out on the market for sale. And so I developed a written response to the county administrator at the time that although this may seem like a big outcome, expenditure, in the end, it saves us money, and there's a resolution or whatever to buy the cars. So at about $7,500 a car. So if you bought those same vehicles today in rotation, now I believe they're like $10,000 a car more. So that's where the county saved money when we bought them out of rotation and brought up the fleet, and also put, I can't remember how many cars back into the county's coffers of cars that they didn't have to expend for the rental program, et cetera, et cetera. It's 5, yeah. So just as a segue. So body scanner, we have installed the body scanner in corrections. I'll try to quickly go over this. This is at no cost to the county, by the way. It's about a $180,000 project that we got a 5-year service warranty, plus it paid for by simply extending our communications contract with a private provider. The down arrow? So, financial costs to the county and taxpayers. The scanner was purchased by our phone service contractors. Delivery costs was absorbed by the contractor. Training and implementation costs were absorbed by the sheriff's office. Policies and development was completed by sheriff's command staff. The scanner meets WASPIC standards, and we have taken one of our detectives from the roadside and assigned them to handle all the criminal acts that occur within the jail currently, is to try to absorb more costs, because what you're going to find when the scanner's up and running, we're going to find dope on people. We're going to find weapons secreted on people, paraphernalia that's not supposed to be coming into the jail. Cost to the county, you paid for configuring power to where we installed the scanner, and the sheriff's office returned ARPA funds in the tune of $180-some thousand earlier this year, and did not use ARPA funds so we could get the project done. So the outcomes hopefully are going to be a reduction in introduction of controlled substances, contraband, and weapons into the facility, which in the end helps you litigiously when people don't overdose in the jail and die, for example. It helps a lot with those type of things, and definitely will help reduce the litigious risk. This is the body scanner. As a person comes in and they're arrested, you stand them in this, and then they basically do an x-ray, which get to here, which is basically sums up to the amount of what you get in a dose for x-rays. And then ultimately, what you end up with is, I'm trying to get to this one here. How come I can't get to number 8 here? What am I doing wrong? Oh, there we go. So when they're standing in this body image they're scanning, this is what the deputies see. And obviously, if you look, you can see what's in the pockets, you can see what's, secreted inside the body, et cetera, et cetera. And we ultimately have got most everybody trained in it for when we're booking. I know of a couple instances now where we've taken inmates to the hospital with search warrants to remove things off their bodies before they're booked into jail. I mentioned that we've developed a policy, which is important for litigious standards for when issues. So it is in place, it is trained on by everybody. And I think you've been provided this ahead of time so you can read the policies that are all uploaded. And we're up and running with it. We'll see how it works. But at the end of the day, it's a $180,000 piece of equipment with full coverage on it for the next 5 years. And I don't know how many attempts we tried to get it installed over the years, but we finally found a way around that. So, any questions?
Is this only pertaining to prisoners or any visitors that are going inside of the jail? Are they going through that too? No?
No, visitors that come into the county are scanned at the front here.
I meant into the jail itself.
This is internal corrections operations. Inmates only, basically.
Do you have any other people that go into your jail without your, there are people that have their rights, and I'm talking about union representation. They can go into the jail without being body scanned?
Yeah, but they're going to be scanned and they're going to be checked for weapons, union.
In the scanner? No?
Different process. This is for inmates. This is to help reduce deaths in the jail and the introduction of contraband into the jail, weapons, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not uncommon right now under today's drug issues that we're having. It's not uncommon to find six ounces is the last one I remember that I thought was pretty significant of methamphetamine. We routinely will find fentanyl, marijuana, all those type of things, which is all against the law. You're not even if you're a crook, you're not supposed to introduce that stuff. But this has nothing to do with the unions and those type of things. But I'll answer that question for you. The unions don't come into the jail unless they're escorted, and that's the way it's going to stay so long as I'm the sheriff. Okay. Any other questions?
How long have you had it up and running?
Just a couple weeks now. Took a while to get all the electricity rerouted and done up to code and those type of things. And so it's placed, I know you've been in the jail, so when prisoners come in off the street into that booking area, it's just right there in the booking area, so the booking deputies will take them, have them stand in there.
Yeah, I saw the space where it was going. It just obviously wasn't there yet. But and as far as anybody else going into the jail, there's really no contact area where they could
Nobody
pass
else
anything.
comes into the jail except through the administrative entrances of the jail.
Yeah.
Right. So this is where this would be where the officers bring them in. And then once, if you see that they have some sort of contraband, then we have to bring a detective in. A detective will sit down and do a criminal search warrant for search the body, and then they're removed from the facility and taken to the hospital. Medical staff do the extractions.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Sheriff Raymond?
Yes.
One clarification, the wall's been discussed, that was left out of the budget last year, this past week. Is that wall associated with this scanner at all?
No, so if you want, I can go through that. So the wall is a CJIS requirement inside the sheriff's office, and we need to install a electronically monitored wall into the records area so that the facility can be used by emergency operations, for example, EOC, because somehow the sheriff's office became the EOC, the backup EOC center. So they drop phone lines and those type of things in there. And because of CJIS requirements, in other words, the wrong people cannot be around computers because of criminal histories, et cetera, we need to install a keypad and a wall to block that part of the office off. And then once that's done, then back where our communications center was to be in the sheriff's office, there's efforts underway to turn that into an EOC conference room, and then also a dispatch of a warm, redundant backup dispatch center that we're levying grants and all those type of things. But the cost to the county, if you would be the wall, and then some alarm pads that have to be put on some doors down the hallway, and then basically finishing the wiring, brick and mortar, if you will, of the area that's just basically just a skeleton right now. And then the rest of the money for the consoles, equipment, all that, hopefully will come from BCES, from our partnership with BCS. And then Franklin County Emergency Operations is writing a lot of grants for the consoles and equipment and generator and those type of things. So the cost to the county in order to make a warm, redundant, fully operational, turn the PSAPs over into the dispatch centers, be pretty minimal in the big scheme of things. Everything else will leverage from grants and those type of things. Wall's about 20,000, and then the rest of it is someone has to come in and go, yeah, we need plugins here and there. We need to drop the cooling down. We need to do, all these type of things, and that needs to be completed. I started by putting in for the wall in the budget process, but it was denied. But at the end of the day, the minute we let non-police people into our community, into our records area, we're not CJIS compliant, and eventually it's going to become an issue if we don't get it done.
Is there a regulatory agency that actually determines CJIS compliant? I mean, after the wall was built, that they could come in and actually basically say, this complies?
Yep, through WASPIC accreditation, and then the state patrol comes and inspects to make sure that you're CJIS compliant. So we have two places in the sheriff's office complex, the sheriff's office record center and then the control center and the booking areas and that two other CGIS compliant areas, and they're already compliant, where you have to make sure that limited people go into those areas.
So then naturally, my next question is, do we have some notice from them that we're actually not in compliance without this wall?
Yeah, I get the notices if we're not in compliance. Yeah. So far, it hasn't been an issue because only sheriff's office personnel were in the records area, the sheriff's office, but that's rapidly changing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move down to administration office business. Yes. Yes, please.
In past weeks, we've talked about the Gallagher contract, and that we need to have an addendum signed, which will discuss the payment, whether we're going to make 4 payments or 2, and also a timeline. So I have that here for your signature. There's also a waiver, but I want more clarification on that waiver from legal, because it prevents us from doing salary surveys during this survey, if I'm reading it correctly. And so that may come before you in the future, but I just want to give you the heads up.
Thank you. And thank you for correcting me. I was moving too fast. Is there any other elected or department heads with something to present? All right, seeing none, then we'll move down to the administration office business.
Presenting will be Shirley Jones from Commissioner's Office.
Okay.
Pretty much an update as far as the solar project for the Hapo Center. The structural assessment was completed, and I forwarded that in an email. It says the existing purlins and building frames were designed for, in addition to their own self-weight, a collateral dead load of 5 pounds per square foot, and the snow load of 25 pounds per square foot. And the solar panels were taken to weigh approximately 3 pounds per square foot. So as far as the structural assessment, we've passed that. The next thing is that what we're looking for is the battery, the storage battery, we will not know until tomorrow. And so due to what that ends up being as far as the size and capacity, that would be something that will then determine how many panels we can have, the system we can put together, and then in turn, that will determine what the actual energy savings will be. And so we're looking at April 4th for McKinstry to be able to put before you a presentation with all of this information, because once they have the battery and are aware of what's going to be used, then they will be able to determine the outcome. However, our application is due this Thursday. There was a quick deadline on this. And so what we are looking for, we've received 2 letters of support, which I also forwarded. One was from City of Pasco, and the other one is from Emergency Management. We are looking for a third from the Red Cross. As far as it becoming a critical facility, in effect, a mega shelter, that is something that would be a memorandum of understanding that would be signed between us and Emergency Management, and potentially also the Red Cross. But in effect today, we are just looking for the consensus to be able to apply for this on Thursday.
Questions?
Shirley, thanks for all the great work on this. I think it's a good project, especially when you can get the state to come in and fund a big chunk of it. But I'm reminded that I think it's Newton's third law: every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and in policy that often turns out to be that we create a new status for a facility like an emergency shelter, primary, secondary, which unexpectedly brings with it additional requirements for the facility, like ensuring that there's, the snow is always plowed, and there's always this and that. And so I would just ask you to be mindful that this, as great as it is, could create some other requirements and obligations for us. And at the same time, having been involved with emergency response, both in the nuclear world and in the county, it's one of the most lucrative areas I've seen for state and federal grant money. And what I'm really leading to ultimately is that Sean Davis over at Franklin County Emergency Management is one of the most talented grant grabbers that I've ever met. And so we just encourage you to continue to coordinate with him on what sort of grants we might be able to apply to the HAPO Center to ensure its accessibility and readiness as a backup facility. I believe that there would be grant money that we could direct for things like snow removal and other activities to ensure that that facility is available. And that being grant money would reduce the cost to the taxpayers of operating the HAPO Center. So all of this is just a little bit down the road, but this addition of the backup power and the designation as emergency facility has, I think, some other downstream potential benefits for us. And be happy to talk with you more offline about it. But I think it's a great program, and I think there's real potential in that grant cycle for keeping the facility up to date and accessible. And I did read letters. I thought they were great. I don't know who wrote them, but very good letters. Thank you.
McKinstry helped on that, and I have Christie on the line should you have any additional questions.
My consensus is to move forward, so.
And I have a couple questions. Warranty of the panels, do we have a idea of, because I'm talking with people that put up these panels and they find that they fail, and what is the warranty on these panels? Years?
Christie, are you on the line? I don't want to speak out. I've heard a number, but Christie?
Yep, I am here, Shirley.
Okay,
I'm trying to see if I can get an answer immediately.
okay.
Because,
Did you have another question while I
I'll
while I
keep,
get that?
these panels obviously are going to have to be attached by drilling holes and attaching to the roof, correct?
That would be another question for,
I'm pretty sure they're going to have to be attached to the roof, and our leaks that were,
there's some new ones that have come out. Now, I don't know that these are going to be the newer ones, but I have actually seen some that actually are become a part of the roof. They're not drilled in. It's really a unique way that they're put together, and they don't drill into the
There's
structure.
multiple options.
okay, because with the severity of that pitch of that roof, I'd like to see that, how they're going to hold up to ice bridges in the wintertime with all that weight behind them, being able to hold on without being attached. And my question is, the problems we've had with the roof are from the screws holding the metal to the roof, correct, where it's rusted out around them? Is that-
Actually, the leaking,
Yes.
is that what you're speaking of?
Yes.
That actually was more because of the flashings around the fans and such on top. And so that has been fixed as far as over the arena area. But that was more due to that than actual holes in there. I mean, now some of the other, the film that they're putting down and such will take care of that also. But it sounded like most of the leaking was around the flashings.
Okay, because if any of it was due to the screws, and the potato cellar that I own, it was due to the screws, and if we have to drill in and put in, we're just likely to have more leaking, is my thought
Commissioner
process.
Didier, I
Yeah.
do have Lance here. He can answer your question about how they're attached.
So predominantly the racking system will be clamped onto the standing seam. There will be a few penetrations for electrical, and there will likely be a few positive mechanical attachments using screws. However, when we do that, we'll have a roofing contractor out there to do that in flash, and we can have them inspect everything under the array to make sure we can warranty it.
Okay. Just a few questions I had.
No, that's great. And they may be able to address even more, with the presentation itself, too.
And the warranty, we're still waiting to answer, but Mr. Davidson?
Surely for the board's clarification, just so they fully understand, the application's due this Thursday,
Yes,
and that we have a presentation a full presentation from McKinstry on the 4th, Tuesday the 4th, and there is the opportunity that they could rescind the application after that presentation.
My understanding is that a decision will not be made until May 1st. And then, but there's also been a couple of instances that Christie's made me aware of to where if we did get the grant, we don't necessarily need to accept it. So there's still time in between to, get this information, which you need.
It'd be
to move
important for the
forward.
board to just hear that part.
Yeah.
And will this get us in complete compliance with the energy certification that
The
we need for
state?
the building?
No, this was pretty much going to be more of a third phase. The second phase, we are at, again, I'm just going by memory a little bit here. We were at about 80%. The phase one, which we will be completing, will get us down to about 58. Phase two would then get us down to closer to 8%, which is where we need to go. And then if we needed a little bit more, then the solar project would be something that would,
Get us across the
help with
finish
that.
line?
Yeah.
That's what I'm asking. This would get us across the finish line on where we need to be for the energy?
We were going to be very, very close to it, but this definitely would make sure that we're down.
Okay.
Commissioner Didier, so on that, we haven't gone to a full guaranteed maximum design on phase two, so we don't have the guaranteed energy savings as to what phase two would look like. However, when we were doing our estimates with the current phase one that you guys are in and phase two, we would be looking at being within 5 points of the target without a guaranteed calculation. This solar, we had as a optional phase three if we need it, and that was a solar array on both the expo and the arena. And with both of those arrays, that would get you below the target. But with the current phase one project and this solar, it would not get you under the target by itself. You would still need to do phase two likely.
Okay. All righty. So is the consensus of the board to progress?
Yes.
Okay.
Excellent, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, the second item under administration office business is a grievance, and so it was incorrectly put there. Sorry about that. We have moved that to a closed session,
Okay.
so that would be a little bit later.
Okay.
The next one is rescinding the administrator position. That was Mr. Gonzalez's contract last Thursday. There was a typo. The ASR pretty much states it, that there was a correction made that didn't need to be corrected, so.
So we need to rescind and then rescind the resolution.
And approve this resolution and submit it.
Okay. So do I have a motion to rescind the resolution 2023-087?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion, a second, to rescind resolution 2023-087. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now we need a motion to approve resolution 2023, is it 088?
It should be one motion for
both?
088, because that document is rescinding
And
well
as passing?
as passing.
Okay,
Correct.
so we've got it covered. Okay. So, Mr. Davidson, I think that concludes your,
I'm sorry, excuse me. Did we say in the motion?
no. Okay, so we need a new motion to rescind resolution 2023-087 and pass rescind 087 and pass 088.
Mr. Chairman, I would note that the resolution speaks to rescinding Resolution 2023-087, but then does not offer or provide a resolution to approve the new agreement, which I believe is necessary.
Yeah, let's just,
Should have a new
let's just pass
number.
2023-088. So let's just pass 2023-088 and we'll be in compliance.
Correct. Thank you.
I would note that 2023-087 includes the language, be it further resolved, the Franklin County Board of Commissioners approve the employment agreement between Franklin County and Michael Gonzalez. And since that would be the intent of 088, it would appear that this resolution for rescinding is not proper as well. Right, but in the same resolution, it also approves the new agreement, which I believe we just decided requires a separate resolution.
Right.
So this resolution before us is problematic in that it attempts to do two things. One, rescind 087, it can do that, but also to approve the new one, which I don't believe it can do, should be a separate resolution.
Move for approval of Resolution 2033-088 as presented.
I'm not familiar with 088. Was that provided in our read-aheads?
Yeah, it's right here.
Yeah, I'm looking through all the read-ahead material here, and can I take a look at that? So that is not in the electronic read-aheads. I can see it's been provided in paper read-aheads. I don't know when, but it's not the point. We have a motion, I believe, for approval of 087. I don't recall, was that seconded?
The 087's already passed. We passed 087, the rescension of 087. We have a motion for the approval of 088. We have a motion, but we don't have a second.
I'm good. Okay, I'll second, certainly for the sake of discussion, if nothing else.
There's been a motion and a second for the approval of Resolution 2023-088. Discussion.
I don't have any. It was just for the purposes of ensuring an opportunity in case my fellow commissioners had discussion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
All right. Next, we'll move on to, I believe we are at public comment. Is there anybody in the room for public comment?
Commissioners, the Civil Service Commission is very similar to yours. Now, I have asked Mr. Davidson to allow a briefing and a review so you have full understanding of what the Civil Service Commission is charged to do and what you appoint us to do. And I've been denied, saying you guys already know it. And today is an example that everyone, after their best efforts, does not. When you have an entire turnover of HR, then they are at a deficit to service properly because they continue acting like they're filling a position for the county. They're filling a position, and the attempt to have an independent Civil Service Commission was to make it quicker and easier to respond to the sheriff's needs. I have asked the sheriff to meet. He has denied that twice, and that is, you can, and we often do consult when there's a position of promotion. We try to find out above and beyond the laws that have changed, what their specific needs in terms of chain of command and issues of life and priority decision-making to make an absolutely great test. Then we have people come in from Walla Walla or Benton, other agencies that are law enforcement, and then you have citizens that sit on that review. And they together bring a score that picks out the top 5, and those are the people the sheriff gets to pick from. The Civil Service Commission was created to work separately but concurrently towards the safety and balance of this county in terms of law enforcement. We should be able to work together, but it has become increasingly difficult, and I believe that is because this body does not have a proper understanding. And you deserve and need that. Now you have department heads reporting. We oversee a third of the county's employees. Now I ask again, as the chairman of the Civil Service Commission, allow us to come and review what we do and how we do it. There have been changes. There's a lot of opposition to those changes. This body will respond to expedite and has done already since 2018, since I've been a Civil Service Commissioner, to make the process quicker. There does seem to be disputing in other parts of the county, and it overflows, and it hits us blindsided. I'm now hearing that people can be given an offer for employment at the site of testing before they even tested it, apparently. Well, where is civil service in that? If we can be that nimble, I will do it. Furthermore, there is more cost. If we're going to use what HR used to do in the terms of public safety testing or NTD, then they're going to do exactly what we've already been doing. So it'd be nice, when they asked for more HR people, that you would have given it to them, but no, we didn't do that. Then we lost our entire HR department. Now we have HR people that have no background and experience, and I can see why the sheriff is aggravated. I am equally aggravated, but I am determined to bring a resolution that does not bring higher law down on this county and bring it greater shame and probably suit. Please hear that.
Is there anybody else for public comment?
I've got a caller.
Oh, real quick here. There's a reason why I don't meet with the Civil Service Commission. I want to look at those rules.
We have a caller.
Yep.
I've got a caller. Caller, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. His deployment to Jordan and Syria left him with PTSD, said the Tri-City Herald, and instantly my body shook. Why did I wake up at 3:35 in the morning, feeling I needed to do something? I can tell you, I have video of how they treat veterans with PTSD in Pasco. They don't appreciate it. They don't appreciate being challenged. They don't appreciate civil service and the civility required to complete it. Even the Tri-City Herald report where Ramos, a past police officer, shot a hostage because she was challenged. There won't be video camera. You won't find that body camera. It'll be mysteriously missing. The city of Pasco and the county of Franklin, more importantly the prosecutor's office and the sheriff's office, has a disdain for what they call mental illness or PTSD. They claim they have a crisis. They claim that way they can get more money from the community. Meanwhile, their officers are going around and being confrontational. They ignore the Constitution, they ignore free speech, and they punch citizens right in the mouth for saying things like the F word, which you hang up on me for reporting to you. And if you get more cops with tombstone courage, it gets more of your citizens shot dead. See, and then you fast forward, and I didn't even know this. I was reading the Tri-City Herald, and there's a lawsuit going on, I guess. What you did is considered tombstone courage, and that behavior results in injuries and even death in police officers nationwide, the chief report said. This is the officer that works for Franklin County that shot, God rest his soul, the veteran, Jones, I think it was. I don't know. It's in here somewhere, but... Well, duh. That's the kind of behavior they want around Franklin County. It's called tombstone courage. I didn't even know what it was until I started looking it up. And then I realized I have multiple videos where the police officers are constantly inciting and causing fear in citizens, mocking citizens, teasing them, making fun of them, harassing them, pulling their guns at them, pointing them at them, and then just saying, "What, are you afraid of me?" But you guys don't care. You guys are going to, like in the Nuremberg trials, continue on doing your job and say, "You don't know what anyone's talking about. Go ahead and treat people like they're mentally ill." You know, it was great. Let me get this comment in, because the county manager and the hiring process that went on, wow. I listened to, sorry, I'm drawing a blank. It's not Didier, the other guy, the guy I said that had integrity. But I listened to him talk, and he's correct. Everybody was disenfranchised by you guys by you guys hiring somebody that didn't qualify, by you guys going outside of the process. Everybody who had a bachelor's degree, in any kind of bachelor's degree, in bachelor's of arts could apply for this. It's so inappropriate the way you guys treat your citizens and the way you guys act continually against them and act as though these litigious situations aren't going to keep coming, like lawsuits aren't responsible. In 2019, you told poor people out back of the track center that they needed to move out of their homes, even though constitutionally you don't have the right to do it. You just basically said, "We'll see you in court because we don't care about your housing situation. You're going to move out because we passed a new law." And that's the way you guys work around there. You pass laws and interpret things you want to against citizens. It's violation. It's why your citizens are crumbling. It's why
Thank you.
our country is crumbling, because of that behavior.
Thank you. Your time is up.
I am going to respond to the statement the sheriff made. The previous chairman, Mr. Trolson, repeatedly told us, the other commissioners, that he would go and talk to the sheriff about different issues. It is not collaboration on the hiring or any ongoing investigation, which we've had very few in this jail. We had one brought up as a visitation clerk that she was not in good standing to be there. And so we ruled that we would not allow her to continue because it presented a case of liability. The only times that we are not supposed to speak are regarding when somebody brings a complaint to the Civil Service Department. And I have not seen that. But there has been collaboration on the needs and issues to better serve the sheriff so the commission can do things in an informed manner so that we can work towards the same goal of safety for our policemen, and I completely disagree with that last caller, for our corrections officers that are in the jail and the people that are in the jail. And that our charge is to make sure that by merit, people are properly tested and the proper applications to give priority to veterans, to previous employed people in good standing coming back, and any BFOQ. And if they've had service at a previous law agency, such as, across the river or even out of state. You just approved a hire from Oregon to get compensatory pay. So we do everything we can to bring the best qualified by merit people to the sheriff's department. And we don't collaborate on those things, we do it by merit, and then we pass them over the wall. They have background checks, they have numerous ability to review the people they want to hire, and he is the ultimate hiring authority, and we've never defied that. We've simply done our part. But this is becoming very contentious, and I beg you to be informed more than you are. You're busy people, but this is important. Thank you.
Is there anybody else for public comment? Anybody else on the phone?
Don't see any.
With that, is there an executive session and a closed session today?
Yes, Chairman, we have an executive session and then a closed session following that to discuss a bi-county issue. So we'll begin with the executive session pursuant to RCW 4230-110, Section 1, subsection I. Request, how many minutes? 5 minutes? 5 minutes.
At this time, at 10:10, we will recess into executive session for 5 minutes. Okay, we've come out of executive session. We're back to regular session. We're going to extend for 10 minutes under the same RCW.
Yeah,
Executive or
closed session.
closed? She needs, okay.
What?
She needs an executive and a closed.
in
We are out of
relation to the
executive
Pike County?
session and back to regular session. And Sam, do you need an executive and a closed?
I need just a 5-minute executive. And yes, I do need a close also.
Yeah.
We have 2 items on the close.
Okay, open the door and we'll go into executive session for 5 minutes.
Do we have a?
RCW, Sam?
Do we know what we're talking about?
Do you have the RCW for this one? We need you to leave. No offense.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh.
Dwayne, would you mind
bladder don't
opening,
mind.
would you mind opening the door so we can go into executive session? I need to call the RCW.
Yeah.
What is it? We've come out of executive session, and we are going into executive session RCW 42.330.110, subsection 1, or section 1, subsection G.
Mr. Chairman.
Trying to get all this done before the door closes.
Hang on. Okay, we're back.
Okay.
Okay, so we have come out of executive session. We need to go into executive session for 5 minutes. And which one are we again on? 7? Yep. And we're going to go into executive session for 5 minutes under RCW 42.30.110, section 1, subsection G, evaluation qualifications of applicant for employment or review performance of public employee.
For how many minutes?
5 minutes already said. We have come out of executive session, and now we're going to enter into closed session. And is there do we have to mention a closed session, or we just say closed session?
There's an RCW.
RCW 42.30.110, Section 4, Contract Negotiations, for 5 minutes, and we will now recess into closed session.
5 minutes.
Same.
I don't know if my son's on that list or not, so
Oh,
that's
okay,
why
I was
I'm
wondering
saying-
what the.
We came out of
example
executive
is, or the reason
session,
for that.
or we came out of closed session, excuse me, and we're going to go into closed session under RCW 42.30.110, subsection 4, contract negotiations.
How long?
For how long, Sam? 5 minutes. All right, we've come out of closed session. We're back to regular session.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move for approval of Resolution 2023-100 entitled Memorandum of Agreement to the 2022-2024 Franklin County Correctional Maintenance Employees Collective Bargaining Agreement as presented to us by HR.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for Resolution 2023-100. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. With that, is there any other business for the good of the county? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.